Good afternoon and welcome to all our viewers. Where this afternoon we're starting off at Safari Hook in Namibia here on Live at the Watering Hole. I am Jaapie Potgieter and I'll be your naturalist and host this afternoon. And I am indeed very interested to see what's going to happen this afternoon at the watering holes. I haven't been seeing them for a while now, and I'm sure that with a little bit of rain, at least on the South African side, there might be quite a few changes. It looks very hot and dry here at Safari Hook. And this elephant is just casually cooling himself down. You can see that giraffe is just checking out, giving a quick glance before trying to get a drink itself. So we're off to a very good start here. It looks like we might have a bit of interaction here between these two. It looks like some Namakwa doves in the foreground. Quite a nice bird to see here under the watering holes. I haven't seen many, so it's a good one for the list. The elephant that came in now, just in a very gentle manner, pushing the other one over to try and get his own spot in the water. Looks like he's capitalizing on the loosened mud from the elephant in front. And I can see that little green island right in the middle of the watering hole is really still a safe haven to those blacksmith lapwings. What an incredible little spot to be nesting. Protected from most predators, not all of them, I'm sure. Now I can just carefully hearing, it sounds like one of the elephants slurping up some water. And there's beautiful dead trees in the middle of the water, standing there like a testament to potentially a former greener era of the watering hole. Now the elephant joining. It looks very hot in Namibia this afternoon, and you see the fourth elephant there in the background. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more bulls that might join. Now, these young and old elephant bulls sometimes they travel in groups, and in these arid regions, I'm pretty sure they would have spent some time together at least in their younger years, if they're not currently swimming. So it kind of creates a network, if you like, of productive areas, especially during times where it's very dry. And another elephant, also a male. what I like about elephant bulls. They often, when they watch each other like this, and they see one is enjoying himself, cooling down, and it's not too long before another one tries to step in and get in on the action. You can make for quite interesting interaction and also comical moments. Good morning to you, Laura Walker. I'm not sure where you are saying good morning from, but a good afternoon here from South Africa. A very hot South Africa. From what I hear, it seems to be an extremely hot day all round. Now, this afternoon, I find myself in the Lowveld near the area where the Kruger Park is, and it is indeed a scorcher of a day this side. And that water looks very inviting. See the elephant at the back shaking his head, and he's also taking a turn this way. So I've got a good feeling he's going to come over this side, and this should be interesting. He looks quite large, even from this distance. I can see a very, very broad space between the tusks. Looks like an older bull. It might be interesting to see how the others react. You can see they're paying attention to the fact that he's coming over. I can see the one standing dead still. Penelope Kenyon, hello to you too. You're saying from a very, very hot KZN. I'm hoping for some great sightings too this afternoon. I mean, this has already been quite a treat. Elephants are always a treat. You can never not enjoy elephants. But what I do like about this scene here at Safari Hook is that surreal scene where you have a blue sky in the background. Now, I'm assuming once the rains come, the trees there in the background give a green lining. Pretty sure the barren soil would stay very similar to what it is, maybe with a patch of grass here and there. But the giraffe standing with their heads upright, you can see they're towering way over that short, that I'm assuming is a Mopani thicket. And they seem to be staring into one direction. You can see the one elephant's gone to lay down, which seems like a very, very relaxed mood. So while these elephants are cooling themselves, we're going to head over to Jabulani where we've got some hyenas. This was really not what I was expecting, to be honest. This is amazing. You have elephants in the water, from elephants in the water to hyenas in the water. And yes, on hot days like this, they do tend to go and cool themselves down, especially older hyenas. One of the features of an older hyena to get more mature is the fur. I'm Even wild dogs, you can see the same thing. The older they get, the tends to thin out a little on the body. That's right. Very, very good relief from the heat on hot days to go and lay down and wallow within muddy patches. You can see these ones have got a doubled up here with a nice shady spot on a bank. It looks like it's quite well protected, so nothing can surprise you outside. Okay, and apologies, I had a bit of a audio technicality, but I see we're back at Ukukuyu in Namibia, and what a sight for sore eyes. From what I can see, it looks like there's a line of green dividing the white earth in the back and the blue sky. Indeed, what a welcome sight. What a welcome sight. Few elephants around. You can see one big elephant, two big elephants, and looks like three younger ones. It looks like, I wonder what that elephant's doing. It looks like it's investigating what seems to be like a rock next to the water there. Now, this is the time of the year, and I know here at Ukukuyu, before the rains, we've seen quite a bit of large herds of elephants coming through, numbering in the 20s to 30s. I'm not sure how large this herd is and if it's just part of a group, but this would be the time that these elephants, the more closely related ones, would split away from the larger groups and tend to do their own thing. And that would mean quite a number of different smaller groups coming in and out of this area, so very likely there's a scent, some interesting chemical cue left behind on those rocks. Let's see, maybe there's something growing near it, something small that I can't see from here. Cade, you're asking what temperature would be unnatural and a cause for concern. That's a very good question. I think for me, anything going above the 30s personally starts to become a concern. But here, especially in northern Namibia where these elephants are, I think things can get very, very hot. I'm pretty sure it can get close to about 50 degrees. That would be degrees Celsius. And I think that would certainly be a concern for not only for a person that would be out there, but animals. And then, of course, those trees, like that very big tree on the side of the water, would be very welcome shade. But of course, watering holes like this brings relief, much needed moisture, and then also animals are adapted to be able to live in this excessive heat. Lady Macbeth, you saying that Ukukuya is your favorite location? I hear that. It is indeed a very well known and famous location. I am truly hoping that one day I'll be able to see it for myself, actually travel up there. All right. Well, you can see it seems very relaxed atmosphere here. Not too many animals down. I think it's very hot there today. But we're going to leave Okukuyu and go check in and see what's happening at Old Donyo. We've got some oryx here. You can see one asserting his dominance there, or being a little bit selfish, making sure he gets to drink from a good edge. The male giraffe. Interesting to see that the water level here at Old Donyo has risen quite a bit. Last time I saw this, I saw quite a few elephant bulls in there, and it looked like the water levels were extremely low. Most animals walked into the pan to have a drink, actually. So, very happy to see. It looks a little fuller. And now they're standing around. Something spooked them. Now, they've been flicking their horns at each other, which shows that, oh, there we go. I can't see clearly, but it's possible that these are all, this is a group of males. Sometimes I do know that there's a bit of tension between them. But I think they'd be very wary to start a fight. I think it's more of a personal space, just establishing their personal space there. With those long horns, they can easily inflict a wound on each other, even without trying. Okay, no, seems like one male. Maybe that's what we're seeing. One male, the one moving off to the left might be another male, and then that one on the right, I think, is a female. And possibly that male is just trying to make sure that he has the best possible spot, the closest position to her. Sherry, you're asking if oryx can live in very wet environments. Well, I have never seen an oryx in a very wet environment. They are generally restricted to the more arid regions, like this particular ecological zone. This is an East African subspecies, or regarded as a subspecies, and they are very, very well adapted to this relatively dry and arid environment. And they can, if they have to, go without water for quite long periods of time. You can see the color of their coats generally also show that they blend into a very dull grey-brown background. And that would usually be the areas on the edges of deserts or semi-desert-like areas. But when water is available, they'll still readily drink, as we can see here. Throughout the southern African regions, they are usually found on or near the desert edges. Even though they are within distance of water, they are very well adapted to survive. Not only in dry areas, but also under extreme heat. But now I'm not sure if it's my eyes deceiving me, but this afternoon it looks like there's a little bit more water and greenery all around, at least to the spots that we've gone. It looks like there might have been a little bit of rain, which is good to see. Probably not substantial rain everywhere. At least in South Africa we haven't had that much rain yet. But it's good to know that the water's filling up. With these watering holes where we have supply of water, we tend to have fluctuations depending on technical issues sometimes. And I'm not sure, when the elephants a little while back was hugging this watering source, it could have very likely blocked or damaged one of its. Talking about elephants, if indeed there was a bit of rain that fell in this region, and they are often some of the first creatures to move out and go and explore the other regions. Being such a large animal and covering such large distances, where animals like these oryx are a little bit more they tend to stay in their own region. A little less likely to travel. Hans, you asking which antelope is the most water dependent? Very, very good question. I don't actually know, to be honest. I know that there are antelopes with very high water requirements, and that includes some of the antelopes like the waterbuck. As their name suggests, they're always found near water. They have a longer, shaggier coat, which might also not only provide protection to more marshy areas, but they tend to be quite dependent on water and always found near. And then also there's other antelopes like Sitatunga. You have antelopes in the spiraled horned antelope that tend to live in jungles, like the bong. And a lot of those antelopes tend to be very reliant on water, or also very comfortable in and near water. Jed, you're asking how come buffalo aren't considered antelope? Well, they fall within the cloven hoof clade, as they're known, but they are of the bovine family, and there's a few differences between them. Number one, even though they're also ruminants, they've got a little bit more primitive system. Oops, and it looks like we might have lost hold on here. But that was indeed a very, very nice interaction between those oryxes there. Back at Indy, one of my favorite sites. Private to walking here indeed. I love these elephant bulls. They're always so active, always playing and utilizing that particular shady spot there. You see the impalas in the foreground. These very significant females. Just tell from the outlines against the water that there's some very round bellies. This late stage of the pregnancy is definitely good to see them relax a little bit more during the daytime, especially the middle of the day, and lay down, get some rest in the shade. And I can see one young male, great spike horn, see a youngster from the previous season. Funnily enough, youngsters tend to stay with their herd up until the next batch of young ones are dropped, which should be any day now. Now, personally, I have not had the privilege of seeing a young impala this year yet. But the babies are due to arrive. I've seen one or two females separating themselves from herds. They often tend to do that, and then they give birth in a secluded spot where they try to do it during the night when it's dark, and then they'll conceal the baby for a little while before introducing it to the herd. You see one of those females have her head down completely, complete rest. And imagine that they must be quite straining in their bodies at this stage and to carry that little baby. But it seems like it's a little bit of a greener Tembi here. I mean, it's almost always some matter of greenery going on in this part of South Africa, but it's very beautiful. Good to know that they've had some rain as well. You see a yellow-billed stork, looks like an African jacana on the opposite. And the elephants just seem to be hanging out. You can see the ears are moving vigorously. They're not seem to be doing too much. They're not feeding. They're just taking rest here in the shade. There's a steady breeze going. Which must most definitely be quite a bit of relief in the scorching sun here in tropical land. But it looks like one of those, and from what I can see, they look in a very good condition. I'm sure in this region, these females were able to get a bit of their dietary requirements, so probably have very healthy, strong babies this season. Now we're getting a very quite large elephant bull compared to the others. And there are a few on the outskirts. Looks like they're coming down for some water. I'm hoping for that. We have more than one animal on the water's edge. Hans, you're asking, is any particular reason why elephants gather in around watering holes? And even that's a good question. To be honest, I don't think I actually knew that. What I've noticed from herds of elephants with little ones, when there is a potential threat in the area, what often happens is the animals will put the little ones right in the middle and then form a circle around it, which provides them with ample protection, of course, for the little ones, with the bigger ones' bulk being that protective barrier, but it also provides the bigger ones with an all-round view of what's happening. So, with elephants being such a large animal, obviously they must have quite a large personal space. Once they've grown accustomed to other elephants, ones that they know, then they'll huddle together. And it's probably a little bit of herd behavior. And in that regard, it might serve as a bit of a protective measure, providing them with eyes in all directions, being able to pick up on any potential threats it might approach. I mean, in their case, I don't think it's so much a threat of potential predators, but more the threat of having to encounter a unfriendly elephant, like a large bull elephant and must. Their eyesight is generally quite good, and even though they focus straight down all the way to where they focus to eat and feed with their trunk, where they pull off grass and plant material. They do have the ability to see quite far should they need to. Now I can hear quite a, except the off-pickers on some of the animals, I can hear what sounds like black-capped bulbuls going crazy somewhere. It sounds like a mobbing call or an alarm call or something, not too sure what. The tree providing these impalas with a very welcome patch of shade. It's a very good spot for the bees, like avian predators like the owls. And I've heard the birds go and alarm at things in this tree before. I've also seen a big nest in there. Not sure what the bird was, so it could be that maybe there is something there that's piquing their interest. That they want to make it feel unwelcome. Catherine, you are asking if animals wander the areas where we stay at night time. Indeed, they do. I don't. It's maybe not necessarily the large. Maybe these elephants won't necessarily wander into a camp. Often camps do protect, have some measure of protection around, even though it's very basic and it's not really to keep things out. It's more just to make sure that the elephant don't come in and destroy the plants inside the camp. Often there's some extensive landscaping done to make the camps look very beautiful, and they got water-wise gardens. But with time, those plants do lower their natural defenses from getting roused by certain animals. Pretty sure they keep the tannin levels up as chemical defenses to deter some of the antelopes that might be in camp. There's often antelopes in camp. Camps are regarded as safe havens for certain antelopes. One of those antelopes, one that we often see here at Tembe, is the Inyala. They seem to wander into camp. Impala, funnily enough, don't. I've never seen impalas in camp, really. They're not too many. But yeah, so it certainly serves as protection. And then, of course, at night time, we have all kinds of small critters. Now, these are all animals that can either jump over the fence or move under it. And by fence, I'm usually talking of something that's basically just a wire, an electrical wire with a current that's put there to deter elephants from moving into camp, and of course, some other larger creatures. But if you were wondering about predators and the risk of encountering one of those at night time, they generally tend to keep to their own and stay away from where people lodge. Now, earlier on, just before we came to Tembe from Eldonium, I started talking about a question from Jed. Jed was asking, how come buffalo aren't considered antelope? Now, what I wanted to say is that 100% I'm not too sure about the reason for that, but I do know definitely some differences in their family trees, and it goes way back in the evolutionary tree. There's certain distinctions between them, but it's also got to do with the way they look. You often find antelope are much more slender. They have narrow faces, and they often have spirally horns, where the bovines and the cow-like creatures are usually much larger. They generally tend to graze only, so mainly eat grass, and tend to form large herds, quite gregarious. And then they have flat, broad noses, perfectly for cropping of grass. So size definitely plays a big role. Antelope are generally smaller ruminants with narrow faces, much lighter, certainly less imposing. Talking about less imposing, that fella that's just dipped down to have a drink there, it was quite funny to watch that. The Harida was standing there. And it was almost like he wanted the Harida to move out of the way, but very carefully, in a respectful manner, approached it. He didn't tend to shoo it. Harida also kind of just waddled out of the way. He also looks very pregnant and probably doesn't want any fright or bother. Sandy Franklin, very good to hear from you. You're asking, do we sleep in tents? And you're also asking if it would be easy for animals to get inside. We do sleep in tents, but tents, sometimes I wonder about the definition of a tent. You can say a tented wall, yes, indeed. Very strong, sturdy canvas tented walls on a wooden or other foundational base. It's well secured, it's closed, and it provides ample protection against the elements outside and rain. But it's still a tent, and no, animals not do not tend to bother or try and come inside. You might occasionally find some critter crawling in to leave the tent door open, but generally the animals know exactly what it is and that it's associated with humans, and they tend to stay away. So when we do stay in the fancier tents, there's no real real issue ever with animals trying to get in, get near. You might have some animals take an interest. Occasionally, some of the predators might. Pretty sure a lot of you might have seen videos of lions walking near tents, but it's considered quite safe. And wherever there might be any historical incident of potentially dangerous creatures getting inside tents, that's usually associated with a behavioral trait from the human side, not taking enough care or caution to either dispose of their garbage or set their camp up properly. And that's a very impressive elephant. That it almost looks like the others have given him a little bit of space there. Dusting himself up. What a beautiful set of tusks. Let's see if he backs up for another scratch. There we go. literally moving all around the tree, using every little patch or surface available to scratch all the hard to reach areas. And bee eaters calling there. Sounds like you're few bee eaters. You can hear that they're back there as well. We've started seeing quite a bit of them now in the lower shelf. Beautiful to see the flocks of bee eaters. One of the best things for me about this year is, of course, all the birds coming back. Now, I was talking about a question that one of our viewers, Jed, had earlier about buffalo and antelope. It's definitely a topic that I'll have to do a bit more research on. Exactly, maybe determine where that family line, or the distinction between the family lines were drawn back in the day. I'm also pretty sure it's got to do with a lot of other physiological situations or developments. But I see there was another interesting question on the oryx by Kim Faustino earlier. She asked if oryx or if the animals that we saw at oryx or gemsbok. Now, it's an interesting question for me because all too often the same creature gets different names in different areas, and sometimes it also goes hand with certain subspecies. But as far as I'm aware, the oryx that we saw there, they are the East African subspecies, and indeed they are also known as hemsbok or gemsbok, as some might call it in English. It's the Afrikaans name for them. So down in southern Africa, in Botswana, in the central parts, Kalahari, the desert areas, that's where they were known as the gemsbok. But they are still an oryx, their English name. That's quite special to see. I always like to watch the animals in groups. Of course, by far my favorite animal to watch in groups are elephant, and then the second I'd probably put hyena and lion, and then the primates. I do enjoy watching primates. Enjoy watching the group antelope, the impala. And we were witnessing their behavior there with allo grooming, the way that these antelopes assist each other to reach place. You see that one impala's bending down. Always looks like they take a nibble at their back end or at the neck, behind the ears of another antelope or on the flanks. Basically, what they're doing is they're using their bottom kind of comb through their fur. That's great that they remove whatever excess debris, dirt, any parasites there might be. It's always nice to see how they tolerate and how trusting they are with each other. And just look at that big elephant there in the background. It's quite the sight. But it's amazing to see all the elephants and the pregnant impalas here at Tembi. But I think we're going to head over to Tau for our first view this afternoon. The camp's got us there. One of my favorite style. This watering hole is so productive over the last little while. It's such a contrast. Always amazed at how dry and barren it looks here. I think the major clearing near this watering hole also adds to that. And just look at those mud-clad elephants. You see from here that elephant cow on the left is covered with her skin, a thick, thick layer of mud. Looks like she might have laid down. And then, of course, the waterbuck. Nice big male waterbuck. Judging from the mud all the way up to his throat and shoulder bones, I'm pretty sure he got stuck into there quite deeply. It almost looks like there's more water now. And if I'm not mistaken, I can see a slight tinge of green in the background on the hill. At least I hope I'm seeing him. That would mean there was a bit of room. Even if it just filled on this water source, that would already be helpful. The waterbucks on an island feeding, so I'm assuming they're in green grass. The last time I saw Tau, a lot of these grasses are trampled, a lot of them cleaned by the elephants and the waterbuck. One thing that strikes me about Tau always is all those what looks like rocks in the background. If I'm not mistaken, mostly elephant coffins, especially towards that one corner. Testament to how important this water source is to this larger area. That's source to the elephant in this region. And then, of course, there's always some good birding this side. You can see the grey heron. Quite an unusual view of the grey heron. Now that we've got a wider view, I can see it is definitely a lot clearer. Looks like those former trench recipients created with their deep steps left, grooves through the muddy patches trying to get to the grass. Like it's covered up a little bit, so there was definitely a bit of rain. Lisa, you're asking which African watering hole would you like to visit? That's a very good question. I don't know. Um, I've been fortunate to visit one or two. Um, I would definitely like to go back to Temgest and see that watering hole. Um, but if I had a choice, I would probably go for one of the ones I have seen outside of South Africa. See Aldonio, see anywhere in that region. It's a region that's fascinating. A lot of unique creatures there. But I wouldn't mind seeing cow. Cow is certainly a spot that I would love to see, just because I think from my experience on live at the watering hole, I've had some good sightings here, some pretty memorable moments. And then another spot I would love to see is I'd love to see one of the members. I think that would also be one of my top choices. What I do like about this area here at Tau is it's a large area. There's a good view from animals coming from far. To me, by the sheer amount of traffic that we see through here, that this is a very prominent waterhole in this region and therefore very, very productive. Sandy Franklin, you're asking if things are a good question. I mean, personally, I've never had any situation that I would regard them as acting aggressively, at least not towards me personally, but they're aggressive. They strike with ferocity. Whenever they've honed in on a prey species, they strike fiercely, quickly, and accurately. So they are definitely can be considered quite an aggressive hunter. I've also tried to see them after smaller birds on the water's edge, chicks, birds. I've seen them often go after trapped fish. Definitely can strike at them, but said that they sometimes get a bit of a spook if something puts up a fierce fight. Now that's interesting. That little elephant is just laying down there, laying dead still. It wasn't for the ear moving. He was alive. Oh, that looks so good. That must be so satisfying. That thick clump of mud on its right tusk. It did not want to go. I'm sure the larger elephants have slowed down to give him a little bit more time. But that looked extremely good. And all that mud's certainly going to serve him well, at least for a little while on this hot day. Slow movements. He looks trying to conserve his energy. He's not going to go for a rub. He's just going to leave that mud on himself. Jack loves the elephant swag. So do I. And that's why there's something about an elephant moving away from you. I think their sheer size requiring that labored movement makes them fascinating creature to study in terms of their movements. They are. It's got a lot of swagger. Sandy Franklin, you saying you were chased by a blue heron? A heron, I do recall being chased by a dark, not dark, years ago. Found one up on the rocks on the South Cape. As I approached, it came at me. I didn't know it was there. It just came walking around the corner, and there was one, I think, cat who used to try to get it. It was not unexpected. Dark birds can be pretty large, can be quite scary, but I thought they can be here and see. It's good to know. They've had their drink. And it looks like they're moving off. I've noticed a lot of the elephants come towards the side of the watering hole when they do move eventually, and I am wondering if there's a major game path in that direction. Another resource. I've noticed sometimes what they do is they just come and check this area out um, around, and often also have a bit of a stop in the shade. There's a nice big tree with proper shade on the side. But as these elephants are going to move towards Oldonyo to go see who's back. Oh wow, that was quite unexpected. I, especially with the angle of this shot, these guinea fowl look as big as that giraffe. Look how nervous they are. Often seen them this watering hole, but they never actually have the chance to bring really something else around that's bigger and chase them. And you can see dip down, lift their head, dip down, lift their head up, and that's just natural response. Any bird, any potential prey in the water, they know that these watering holes can be, they all congregate, easy targets for a bit of prey. And then, of course, they also react to one sees the butterfly in the water, gets a fright, and the next one just acts on that one's movement. What's funny about what we see in here is that's probably but also a little bit of a curse of living in groups like this for some of these group birds or animals. Different fright that they sustain from the others in the group. It's like a reactive reacting to the behavior of the other birds. You can see them moving, trying to find a different spot, trying to get into the middle there. So it's interesting to see because that's what they try to do. They try to get into the middle of the group, least likely to be picked off from the side. Often the stragglers and the ones hanging out from the side would be the targets for predators. quite big group of elephants here. And what a, oh, is it 7, 8 on the right? And what a learning school this is. This is spectacular. Imagine being an elephant, just leaving your herd, needing to find your, as arrogant, well, as arrogant as they can be as a young male, thinking that they know a lot and strong. And better for them to be one of these learning schools. You see some of them are just standing straight out from the sun. Interesting. They have some sort of protection with white soil, and then you can see their backs do look a little pale, and you see some dust going up, so I'm assuming that they're covering themselves. And what I like most about this watering hole is the constant sound of the birds. The nice dense forest, very unique forest around these open patches with their watering holes, the pans. It provides excellent habitat for birding, some of the best birding in the country, for sure. It creates a very, very relaxed, very beautiful atmosphere. You just see the wind moving through the big trees and the green foliage. And what I've noticed now is that a lot of these pits, sand pits, on this side of the watering hole have been dug a lot deeper. And I'm wondering if that is testament to a little bit more elephant activity around the area lately, or maybe the increased heat in the area. Elephants tend to dust themselves quite heavily on cloudy days. And if I'm not mistaken, there were quite a few of those in and around that region the last little while. It's amazing to hear those bee eaters going. You can see those elephants are just standing still, trying to exert as little energy as possible currently. It's just pretty much, I think, what any creature would be doing on a hot day like this in South Africa. And once again, we're witnessing classical situation. Size does matter. And the bigger animal gets a right of way. You can see that elephant kind of just came walking in there, forcing the other large elephant out of the shady spot. And it looks like those two elephants there on the back left might be up to something. One's just having a drink, but I'm wondering if the other one might wander over towards his side. Mm, in the past, that's usually the watering hole they choose to swim in when they do. And I am wondering in terms of depth of these pans, if one isn't a little bit deeper. You know, it's certainly deep enough for an elephant to lay down. And the one elephant's coming out of the shade to come and have a drink. It looks like there's a bit of movement happening here. And I am wondering, is this the elephants coming from other sides? Usually, middle of the day when it's very hot, the elephants tend to stand around in the shade and do as little as possible. But once the breeze starts going, they usually get a go on and they move on and they start to move a little bit about. But no, I think I was hoping for a little bit more than that. But I know I've mentioned this before. The elephants here at NB always seem quite relaxed with each other's presence, really for the amount of elephant bulls within this area is clearly a well-established hierarchy. And I'm assuming it's because individuals know each other very well. Also, there are some really big elephants here, which there's no doubt as to who sits higher up the ranking system. But it's the young ones that I enjoy watching on that regard. The ones that are still trying to settle on who takes what position. What I found interesting is that Hardy has just been moving in between these elephants, in and amongst the shade, really picking up whatever insects or little creatures they might disturb from their dust bathing or being on the water's edge. And finally, we have an elephant that's going all the way. I'm wondering when one of them would get down into the water.